How's it going, everybody? And as always, welcome back to Continues to Tick. As you guys saw by the title of today's video, it's another milestone video. And I honestly wasn't planning to make this video today, but I did get an email from M1 and it reminded me I've been out of the loop. I haven't even been thinking about it. It hasn't even crossed my mind that this journey has continued and I've reached another milestone. And a big point to that is time has continued to pass. I've continued to do things consistently, and I haven't even taken the moment to breathe to realize that I hit $75,000 in my dividend portfolio. It took M1 Finance's email to remind me. It's because a lot of what I do is just clockwork. It's just going on in the background, going on in the back end of my life. I continue to invest automatically, doing my thing, continuing to live my life. And this dividend portfolio continues. And every 2 weeks I make a video here, continuing to just document the story unfold over time of what can happen if you consistently invest in a dividend portfolio with a plan and a projected outcome and a vision in mind. This is the result of that. So part of me is excited and part of me is surprised. I mean, we've done a milestone video from like 5 or 10,000, all the way tracing back to when I started this YouTube channel. And here we are now at 75,000. And as you guys saw from the title of the video itself, I'm going to tell you how much a $75,000 dividend portfolio pays me in dividends. So stay tuned towards the end. If you're someone a little short on time, look at the timestamps down below. Click on it, you'll find it, and you can get to that here pretty soon. It's just a click away. But for the people who want to join this journey a little bit more, have some time, sit back, and let's kind of talk about this. And before we go further into this video, let's take the time. I guess this is an email that M1 Finance sends you when you reach a $75,000 milestone. It says, congratulations, that's quite impressive. It says, we're excited to help you turn that wealth into more wealth. And we can't wait to see you leverage our tools to the fullest. And it has like a cool little quote here. You'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. John Calvin Maxwell. 100% friends. For those that have been here for the journey, trailing all the way back to my earliest videos, my mindset with this dividend portfolio has always been that consistency leads to progress and progress leads to results. So when I break this down, friends, it's this consistency, right? Over time, investing in a dividend portfolio automatically over time, it leads to progress. It is now through that progress that I reach results, right? A $75,000 milestone is that progress now hitting the point of a result. And the result are these milestones. So it's really neat to see. But, if you use M1 Finance, you might get one of these emails. They used to not do this. And if it wasn't for this email here, I would have just skimmed over my 75K milestone. But hey, if they're going to recognize it, I'll recognize it. We'll make a video on it. So friends, let's continue with the video here. As always, friends, with these milestone videos, I'll be going into more depth than I normally do in my typical videos. It'll kind of align with those monthly, portfolio reviews that I do. But this one's just with that taste, of reaching a milestone. But like those videos, I'll also tell you how much I fund in my portfolio and how often. I'll go into my sector allocations and percentages a bit more. I'll tell you the number of current holdings that I have. I'll tell you my current portfolio's dividend yield. What is my expense ratio? And then ultimately, at the very end, I'll tell you how much my dividend portfolio currently pays me in dividends. But before we dive in, friends, before we get into it, I just want to take the time to just recognize that this is my first video of the year 2024, which means we are now in a new calendar year. The best time to start anything oftentimes is the start of a year, right? Right now is that time. If you didn't take the time to start last year, take the time to start today. I started this portfolio in the year of 2020, in July 2020 to be exact. And at that time, friends, all I wanted to do was just start and invest consistently. That was my plan. Like my motto, consistency leads to progress, progress leads to results. I am now 3 years going on to 4 years wiser from that point, and I haven't stopped. So as long as you don't stop, friends, you will consistently see an outcome that hopefully aligns with the future that you desire. So just continue, friends. Start and continue. Follow along. We're having fun with this thing. They always say the best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. The best time after that is today. So start today, friends, if you haven't. And if you have started, just continually invest systematically with a plan and the horizon. Continue to keep your eyes set on that horizon. So friends, as always, here we are in the Jesse's cash flow portfolio, and as evidence, $75,007.86. So there it is. We've reached the 75K mark, and barely $7 over, but M1 Finance is celebrating with me. $7 over. Hey, let's shoot him an email. Let's let him know he's getting close to 100K. And man, when I hit 100K, it's gonna be a big moment. It'll probably be in 2 years or so. We'll see. It really just depends. Right now, for those that are curious, I am funding my portfolio at a pace of $150 every single week. That is my strategy. It doesn't have to be yours, but I like to invest every single week, so I dollar cost average. When I first started this portfolio, you could see I was pushing this thing really, really quickly. I was investing $500 every single week back when I first started. And as you could see, on July 20th of the year 2020 is when I first started this baby. Investing $500 every single week. So much money. That was $2,000 a month, on an RN salary, just pushing it. And then life happens, friends. You can kind of see where life continually happened for me. I lowered it to $100 every week. And, earlier this year, I upped it to $150 every week. And that is my current strategy. I went to get my master's degree. I had to pay for school out of pocket. And right now, my main focus, is kind of paying off debt. So I'll get to some of my short and long-term plans later in the video. But that's just an overall picture of my current status. And just kind of going back to the current value, right? We hopped over a little bit, jumped ahead. Let's jump back. My $75,000 dividend portfolio has a current all-time gain of $12,997. All-time, this equates to 33.46%. M1 Finance, they did an update. It used to tell me how much of this gain was from dividends and how much was from actual market gain. They don't really show that anymore. I wish they would bring that feature back. It just caught my eye. Let's see. I think it shows it here. Yeah, we're moving through this. So all time, friends, actually, let me show you all time. Out of the $12,000 that I have gained, the market gain is $8,213 and dividends is $4,783. So it does have it here. I used to reflect it up here. Now it has it down here. Hey, we're exploring this together. So that's pretty neat. Year to date, friends, I have an overall portfolio gain of $5,754, and dividends earned this year is $2,145. So I told you guys my funding schedule and how much I fund currently. If there's one thing you guys want to see though out of this portfolio, one reminder I always give is there's always a link in the description box down below. If you click on it, I always share the link to this pie. You can click on the slices in there, see exactly what it is that I'm holding in this portfolio. Go at your leisure, go at your pace. There's a lot in here. There's 51 stock holdings. You can see what I'm holding overall to kind of get an idea for your portfolio or compare. I don't recommend, copying, replicating my exact portfolio. I did this based on my own understanding, my own comfort level of the market. That is just my little caveat that I like to say. But anyways, friends, there's a link in the description box if you're curious to see. Let me show you my best and worst performers. So overall, it shows that tech has a return of 173%. So that is climbing, right? And the main reason, some of you guys may know already, it's NVIDIA. NVIDIA continues to just go up and up and up. This would even be higher, but right before I took my trip to Greece earlier this year, I actually needed a little bit of money, and I actually sold $2,000 worth, and I got it right back practically. So it just continues to move upward. And when it comes to selling and buying, I'll just point out here, because I mentioned it, I don't often sell anything in my dividend portfolio. My strategy is to buy and hold, let it ride, don't make any significant changes unless I really have to. Reasons why I would sell, for example, would be if a stock holding has been cutting dividends right consecutively over quarters, or if I no longer have a belief in the stock holding, right, I'll sell. But my strategy is to not sell unless I personally have a reason to sell. Otherwise, I buy and hold. And I've been doing that since the very beginning of my portfolio, and I've remained in the green. Maybe I could have had more gain, who knows, but I don't like trading. It's just my preference. Life happens for me too quickly for me to keep up with everything that's going on and trying to, outsmart the markets. My strategy is to set up a smart strategy from the jump and then see over time how it unfolds. Investing in blue chip companies help give you a peace of mind, so you don't have to consistently hover and watch these companies, right? Watch their every single move. These are mature blue chip companies. Some of them are dividend aristocrats. You just have to have some faith, right? And some belief in these companies that, hey, if they've been around this long, they've maneuvered some of these downturns in the markets, I think they'll be okay. It's just the way I overall look at my dividend portfolio. But right after tech, friends, at 173%, we have energy at 79.79%. I'm just going to dive into some of these just to kind of give you some examples. ExxonMobil, Chevron. And then it's funny because, the one green energy company, NextEra Energy, is down in the red. So oil is up big right now. And they've been up big for a while, carrying my whole energy sector. And that's the whole importance of being diversified, though, friends. You have to be diversified. I know I said I had a lot of holdings. You don't have to have as many as I do. Most people don't even recommend that, but I'll explain why I do it later on in the video as well. But just so you can see, financials is next, followed by consumer discretionary, and all these go, in chronological order downwards in the green. And when it comes to my worst sector, it's healthcare, down 18.16%. Communications is my second worst. What is it? Probably Comcast. Now it's Comcast, Verizon, AT&T. So really no surprise. Comcast is actually doing the best out of the three, right? If we had to, point out which ones were doing the worst, AT&T is doing the worst. And look at that, Omnicom, right? This really old, established company is actually carrying a load here, up 64%. And again, this is just an example of the reason, the importance to being diversified. You just never know. You can't predict how these markets, how these stocks, how these companies are going to move. You have an idea, but to have a crystal ball and picture it exactly to a T, or even just to predict, is very tough. That's why being diversified helps a lot. And as you can see, friends, these are my sectors, going from best to worst. Let me just kind of point out also allocations, right? So I have real estate set at the highest allocation at 13%. These are all by my personal preference when I started this portfolio. Consumer staples is second at 12%. And I have my ETF and index fund each at 10%, which together equates to 20%. It keeps my portfolio pretty stable and fairly diversified, even just those two on their own. So with my ETF and index fund, that's 20, and real estate, those three chunks right there is 33% of my portfolio. That is the rock to my portfolio. And then all these other sectors follow. I got utilities at 10%, and kind of going downwards 9, 8, 7. I got energy at 3%, materials at 2%, and consumer discretionary at 1%. And of course, friends, you can always set a description here when you set up a portfolio on M1 Finance. My goal of this dividend portfolio is a goal of passive cash flow from dividend income. Just trying to create that next stream, right? This, and hopefully one day, will also be real estate. Hopefully these two, and if I stay with the state, which I hope to, I have a pension and then hopefully a 457B. So not even just a 3-leg stool, hopefully a 4-leg stool in retirement, right? That is the plan. But life happens and you just got to adjust and pivot as you move. But that is the plan. So now let's go into the activities section, right, real quick. Let me show you a little bit, give you some evidence that I do invest currently $150 every single week. You can see it here on December 29th. You can see it here again on December 22nd, here on December 15th. I have it automatically set for every Friday to invest $150. This is $600 a month approximately, slightly more when you multiply or divide, by 52 weeks in a year. But roughly, right, $600 every single month right now goes into the dividend portfolio. And I always like peeking in here for some motivation every once in a while. All these green payouts here, for example, VIG, $37, SPYD, nearly $100, Duke Energy, $8.85. These are all those dividend payouts. And just as a fun little memory to share, my very first dividend payout was by Apple of 8 pennies back at the very beginning. I could try to go back to the very beginning, but actually, you know what? Let's try. So these are all little buys that I did. I did a couple, consecutively in that first week. Let me see. Let me go to 9. Let's see. Boom. Right here. Going down memory lane. Apple was my very first dividend payout. 8 pennies back on August 13th, year 2020. And now, by SPYD, almost $100, right? Dividend payouts. At this point, my portfolio was like maybe $1,000, if that. Probably not even that. And now it's $75,000. So time continues, friends. Leverage it to your advantage. And here, friends, let's just kind of show you a little bit more data, just so you can see. I do have 51 positions here. My cost basis, right? This is all the money I've personally put into this portfolio, has roughly been $67,000 and has a current value of $75,000. This means unrealized gain, right, from the market alone is $7,450, and the rest to get to about $12,000, right, of an overall gain, has come from dividends. So my unrealized gain plus my dividend income over time, right, has equated to that $12,000 gain. So being a dividend investor helps. It helps push up that portfolio overall. And one of the many reasons to be a dividend investor. And friends, let's take a look at the funding history, right? This is the end of the year. I might show this in a future video when I talk about, future plans or past review of my last year's investing, right, overall. But let me just show you, in 2020, I started this portfolio in July. I invested $12,700. In 2021, I had a perfect investing year, executed my plan to a T, $500 every week, right, times 52 weeks is $26,000 in 1 year. So I executed that year perfectly. 2022, life happened. I actually went back to get my master's degree, started paying that out of pocket, and that led to a slight dip, right, of $19,500 for the year invested. And then this year, friends, 2023, it says $5,550. It's not fully done, but that is kind of where we're at. But just so you can see, friends, life happens. I'm hoping this will be the lowest point or the lowest funnel overall into my portfolio that I'll ever have. Hopefully it'll just only go up from here, but the idea is to adjust and pivot over time. Life happens, things change, right? But overall, the idea is to never stop and just continue, even if it means slowing down temporarily. That's just the way I look at it. So here we are now in the Jesse's cash flow portfolio, just to show you a little bit more data, right? I already told you guys I have 51 holdings, and I would tell you kind of why. So the reason why I have 51 holdings, the reason why I have so much, yes, is to be diversified, but 2, it's also because my strategy isn't to trade, it's to buy and hold. My vision, friends, looking into the horizon, is to one day have a multi-million-dollar dividend portfolio, right? So for me, the way I looked at it is, let me get the holdings I need now so I grow into them as I go into the future. I dollar cost average my portfolio into the position, into the size that I plan to have. And that is it in short. Though the reason why I have 51 versus just having an index fund or ETF is I enjoy having my own holdings to kind of watch. I enjoy that aspect of, maybe I might have to sell this, or let me keep an eye on this. I just like managing my own portfolio. A benefit to managing your own portfolio as well, friends, is look at my expense ratio. It's only 0.01%. It's really low. Real low fraction of a percent of my portfolio that I have to pay. I don't like giving people any more money than I need to. Maybe they can have a better return for my portfolio, but is it really a better return when I have to give a chunk of it away every single time? I don't know, right? That is a question for you to ask yourself and for you to answer for yourself. This is the way I answered it. This is my strategy. It's just one way to do it. And as far as my dividend yield, friends, you could see 3.251%. I always like having it between 2.8 and 3.3. So having it around 3.2, 3.25, that is all within range that I'm comfortable with. I don't need it to be 4%, 5%, 6%, 8%. I start to need to worry about it a lot more when it's that high. The idea is the higher your dividend yield is, right, the more risky it can be. The more risky it is for a dividend cut, right? So for me, having it around 3.2, anywhere in this range, I have a lot more peace of mind knowing that my companies are doing okay, my portfolio is overall doing okay. There's not too much risk. It's slow and steady. That's what this whole thing is about. And let's see, going back to my questions here, right? I didn't add it here, but typically I do answer this question, right? I answer the question of what is my long-term, what is my short-term, plans for this portfolio, for my investing future, what are my plans? So on the short-term, friends, if you've seen one of my earlier videos, towards the end of the year, my plan right now is to just pay off all my debt. I have some debt from school that I have to pay off, from a car, a little bit from the IRS, right? From getting into the workforce initially for the first time. I have some of these debts, right, that I have to pay off. My goal is to lower the funding to $150 every week and really just tackle this debt. I just got done paying for my master's program out of pocket. So from taking all that money and putting it into my dividend portfolio, I'm going to hold off a bit. And instead of kind of upping that investing funnel, I'm just going to push it into paying off my debt. And if you're curious about that, I really break it down in some of these later videos towards the end of the year of 2023. You can take a look at those videos if you're curious about my plan and how I kind of plan to tackle that. But that is my short-term strategy, right? At least for the next year. After that, friends, my long-term view is I want a multi-million-dollar dividend portfolio. I want to retire by the age of 50 to 52 comfortably, and the key word is comfortably. And since the day I started this dividend portfolio till now, and hopefully into the future, that has continually remained my goal. That's just to set myself up today so I worry less in the future. I don't want to be one of those people that stress more about trying to retire, right, than they did when they were working in the workforce. I want all my work to be intentional now so it's easier later. That is just the way I view life. I'm a very future-oriented person. Let me try to work harder now so I work, smarter later. That's kind of the idea. And then hopefully an attachment to that, I also want to, get into real estate. It's hard in these markets. I'm 28 years old. I got to give it a little bit more time, especially if I want to do it smart and with all these other things I kind of have going on, right? Career development's important. Trying to increase my income is important. Hopefully those things will help me as time goes on to get to these goals in a better way, more efficient way, and a quicker way. So we'll see. But just before we wrap up this video, friends, I do want to keep my promise to you. I want to tell you guys exactly how much my dividend portfolio pays me at the size of $75,000 in dividends. So as you can see here, friends, with Jesse's cash flow portfolio, 51 stock holdings, $67,000 invested. It's practically the same, give or take a few pennies, $75,014.45. It's practically the same. A slight discrepancy, maybe a couple pennies, but for the most part, it's the same. As you can see, I currently have an annual dividend income with this portfolio size of $2,365.09. If you break it down monthly, it's $197.09. If you break it down by the day, it's enough to get some Starbucks, $6.48, get some cold brew. And for the yield, it says it's 3.15 here. It said it was 3.25 on M1 Finance. There's always a slight discrepancy, slight difference. I always like to say it's somewhere in between, if not even leaning towards M1 Finances. This is an app that I got from the App Store. I don't know how accurate it is, but I would say M1 is probably more accurate. And moving down, friends, as you can see, an annual dividend income goal that I've had is to reach $2,500 of dividend income. I'm 95% reached. It says I need to invest $3,853 at this current portfolio's yield, and I will reach that goal. So that is it, friends. That is where I'm at. You may think it's a little, you may think it's a lot. It really just depends how you view finances and investing, where you are in your portfolio. But for me, it's progress. It's slow and steady. It's low stress investing. And it's exactly how I like to move with money in my life. Everything else that's high energy, I can do in a different way. Maybe try to create my YouTube channels, put more energy into career development, trying to get into the real estate market, improving myself on a personal level so that I can do all these things even more efficiently. There's other areas I personally like to put energy and time into. A dividend portfolio is one that I like it to be slow and steady, moving in the background, barely noticeable, but moving in the right direction. But as always, friends, thank you guys for watching. If this is your first time here, welcome and consider subscribing. This journey has been going on for a while. Continue to follow along if there's something you're interested in. My plan is to never stop. My plan is just to continue. Keep documenting this as a case study on YouTube of my dividend portfolio. And I'm looking forward to the day, friends. My next milestone might be 80,000 and then 90,000, but the $100,000 milestone will be here soon enough because I'm going to continue to leverage my time and point that way. And I'm most looking forward to that video. That's the 6-figure dividend portfolio mark. And I can't wait, friends. So subscribe, because one day, it's inevitable, we'll hit it. But until then, friends, I'll be here every 2 weeks like I've always been. That is my plan now, continuing to do it every 2 weeks. Maybe eventually I'll get to 1 week, or every week like I used to. But for now, slow and steady, friends, wins the race, as they say. See you guys on the next one.